Alicia, and thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of the Autonomy podcast. You all, I am so happy to be here recording today. It's funny because initially I was just thinking, oh my gosh, I don't have anything to record today, just to be completely transparent. But I was like, you know what? I really want to look into, like, as much as I can, look into this whole idea around tariffs as it relates to food and the pricing and what this looks like for the American people. And I came across a really awesome article. I wanted to share this with you all because I thought this was so important for us to just kind of like take in and understand where we are here in this country as it relates to food pricing, and even as it also relates to the agricultural components of this country. The farmers here are also in a pretty serious situation because of these tariffs. And so I just wanted to share some information I found in an article by an organization called Civil Eats. And I'll share the actual link of this article in the show notes here today. But the name of this article is How Trump's Tariffs Will Affect Farmers and Food Prices. And it says, and we know this, that economists say tariffs will likely lead to high food prices while farmers are worried about fertilizer imports in their export markets. And I was like, oh my gosh, I really want to focus on this because I think a lot of us forget that sometimes there are other moving pieces that we don't see that are happening behind the whole situation that's at hand. And one of those things are the fertilizer imports. And I thought, oh my gosh, like I didn't even think that that would be something that would be an issue because I just thought fertilizer, right? It's right here in America, right? But according to this article, let me get to this section where, and I was like, what? So according to this article, it says that the fertilizer imports, okay? It says according to trade group the Fertilizer Institute, which their acronym is TFI, 85% of the mineral fertilizer potash used by American farmers comes from Canada. Our northern neighbor also provides a quarter of farmers' nitrogen needs. So, in a statement, TFI asked the administration to consider exempting fertilizer from the Canadian tariffs. A stable and affordable supply of fertilizer is critical to maintaining the global competitiveness of U.S. farmers, strengthening rural economies, and keeping food prices in check. And this is from the CEO of, his name is Corey Rosenbush. And I wanted to focus on that a little bit here today because I thought, like I said, when we think of certain things that are actually happening, like the operations of certain entities like farming and how we get our food here in the United States, a lot of us don't take into account that there are, like I said, there are so many things that actually have to occur in order for us to get food to our tables. We have been so conditioned in this country to just go to the grocery store, pick up whatever we want and need, and just expect it to always be there. And I feel like if we continue on this trajectory by way of tariffs and the high costs of things, i.e. the fertilizer situation here, we will see where we will not have certain foods either provided in the grocery stores or dare I say a co-op or something like that. But or it could be the thing of the prices are so astronomically high that we are struggling to pay for those particular items. And you're probably thinking, okay, Alicia, if you listen to Car Confessions, I call myself Leash. That's my nickname. Whole other story. But anyway, but if, you probably are thinking, Alicia, prices are already high, right? So tell me something that I don't know. Well, they can continue to increase if things like this, like the fertilizer situation, is not managed in a way that actually benefits the farmers. I mean, the farmers still have to live, right? They still have a livelihood. They still have families to take care of, whatever expenses they have on a daily basis. So it's like we have to think about the whole picture. And I think that's what's unfortunately being missed with the Trump administration is that, yeah, it's being missed that, yes, you're doing all this, creating these tariffs and, doing this by way of what you think or you're telling people that it's going to help our economy, but in the end, it's actually going to make things worse. And like I said, then it becomes a domino effect, and then like this trickle down where everyone that is affected, um, will benefits, but it'll be more sort of us reaping all the tragedies that come with that. And so I think it's really important for us to keep that in mind. That, like I said, this is just one thing, the fertilizer, right? But then there are other things that could also actually cause an issue moving forward in the food industry as well. Another thing this article brought up, which I thought was really interesting, was one second, where was it at? The agriculture exports. Now, this is something I had no idea about. It says China is the biggest export market for American farmers. I didn't know this. In response to Trump's tariffs, the country announced it will reciprocate with 15% tariffs on American food and agricultural products, including soybeans, meat, and chicken. Mexico and Canada are also promising retaliation, which could impact exports of American wine and beer. We kind of knew about that because we heard more of that, or at least I have been hearing about that with Canada, because from what I know, Canada has basically taken the majority, or if not all, of our American based alcohols off their shelves. So that's not going to look good for us moving forward if that continues. So let me read that again for you guys. So it says Mexico and Canada are also promising retaliation, which could impact exports of American wine and beer, also grains and meat. During Trump's first term, tariffs caused economic losses in farm country, and the USDA paid farmers $10 billion to make up for it. Secretary Rollins said the agency is prepared to do that again. I am just really concerned on so many levels as it relates to the food industry here in America. Because I mean, beyond the food industry just being, what it has been, where the government has, kind of like erased the autonomy of the traditional farmer. That's been a thing that's been an issue for a long time, right? And the farmers having to rely on the government in order to really just make a livelihood. Growing certain products like soybeans and things like that, these patents are by way of the government for the most part. The farmers don't have, like I said, that autonomy to grow their own soybeans and, do this in a way where back before the government really got involved with all this, farmers actually exchanged seeds and, helped each other out. And now that's not a thing. And now to know that the government has a more of a stranglehold on your actual way of life and living, it's really upsetting. And it's just heartbreaking to know that that sense of autonomy was taken away a while ago, and now their livelihoods are stricken even more so with these tariffs and all these things that are happening by way of that. And so for me, I'm just like, at what point do we fight back as it relates to the government having so much control over how farmers are managing and navigating our food sources here in the United States? It's really concerning to me. And after reading this article, because I was wondering, I was like, you know what? Because honestly, I'm going to tell you guys, I have been really just trying to be as mindful as possible about how much of this information I'm consuming as it relates to this administration and all the things that they're doing to this country that are for, the worst outcomes that we will probably see, in our history, and to me, I would say, or at least at this time, I'll say that, because we thought the Bush administration was the worst. You could just go on and on, and then you realize it's like, oh, that it was bad then, but this is whoa. So I don't want to say this is the worst, but it's not good. Let me just say that it's not good. And so living at this time, right, and seeing what we are seeing, it is very disheartening. It is very troubling. And it really makes me feel like everything that we thought was, you know, the land of the free, home of the brave, America is this free place. It's like, no, there's no freedom behind any of this, right? The fact that farmers have to succumb to the government's actual, like, how would you even say that? Like, basically, they just have to succumb to everything that they're actually implementing. There's no freedom behind that. There's just not. And I think the more that we realize that this country has so much control over how the food industry is managed and navigated, um, the more that we realize that, I think the more that we can fight back and educate ourselves on what is really going on behind the scenes. Because, like I said, you guys, I love talking about food. I love talking about eating. I love talking about, how we, function as people who eat, right? The good, the bad, the ugly. But at the same time, we need to talk about the idea of how our food is being manufactured, how we are actually being required to pay these high prices for food, and also figuring out why are we paying these high prices, why are farmers being subjected to possibly losing out on, like I said, the fertilizer, the potential to actually grow and make a living. Like, we need to ask those questions and not just sit back and hope and pray things are just going to like figure themselves out. Now more than ever, we need to start questioning everything as it relates to who we are as a country and how we move forward, particularly, like I said, in the food industry, because at the end of the day, we have to eat. Guys, like, we have to eat. And so if you don't have, your own garden, right? If you don't have free range chickens and all these different things where you are able to, have your own food, if you're someone like me who lives in a metropolitan area, and I don't have, yard space to grow fruits and vegetables and all these things. I mean, we have co-ops and things of that nature, but that also is reliant on farmers. You see what I'm saying? So it's us really figuring out how we can not just sit back anymore, and how we can start questioning and then also demanding how these farmers are being treated, and also how we are being treated as well. Because at the end of the day, if we're a true democracy, we should be able to fight back. We should be able to speak our minds and say that these things are not right and these things need to be changed, because these people in office work for us and not the other way around. I think we have kind of moved unconsciously and consciously into a sense of looking towards a king. And Trump, as we know, that is something that he would love to be called. He would love to be considered a king and someone that would be basically in a dictatorship where he just makes the rules and we just follow. But if we are truly the land of the brave and the land of the free and home of the brave, am I saying that right? Home of the brave, land of the free. You know what I'm talking about. If we are truly a free democracy, there we go. That sounds about right. If we are truly that, then we need to fight back. We need to fight back, and we need to demand more information and more and not even so much information. We need to demand that our needs are met, because at the end of the day, we're paying into this system, our taxes. Hello, like, we're paying into this on, constantly paying into this system that is not working for us. And I'm just talking about the food. I mean, we could go into other things where we are paying into that we're not benefiting from, right? I'm not gonna go down that rabbit hole because we're talking about the food, and I don't. Y'all know me. I'll get going. So we definitely need to start standing up and really figuring out, like, why are these things happening? And what can we do to make it work for our benefit, given that our money is what's actually funding all this? Like, it would be one thing if we weren't, paying into this system, then maybe we wouldn't have so much of a say. But this is our money that's being utilized to do these things. And I just really want you to hear that and understand that. Like, it's wild that we are sitting back and just kind of like, okay, but I mean, I actually said we're sitting back because we are seeing a lot of movement happening. Things are rustling, things are slowly rustling and happening, but we still have to raise awareness around the places and things. Like I said, I didn't know about some of the stuff that I'm sharing with you today. We have to start raising awareness around this, and like, oh, this is another thing too. We can't sleep on it. We got to apply that pressure and let them know, no, we know about this and this is not right. Towards the end of this article, it talks about food imports and prices. And it says, beyond farmers, economists say everyday Americans should expect higher food prices, which, we know that. That's because the US imports about 200 billion in food, beverages, and animal feed from the three countries. And so that is Canada, Mexico, and what was the other three countries? What were the three countries, y'all? Give me one. Oh, and China. Duh. So from the three countries, so it's Canada, Mexico, and China. All right, that we are importing from. And that's so. Let me read that again, y'all. I'm sorry. So it says that's because the U.S. imports $200 billion in food, beverages, and animal feed from the three countries. We got that clear. It was Mexico, Canada, and China, especially fruits and vegetables from Mexico, and animal feed, grains, and meat from Canada. So our two bordering countries. In the past, importers have passed the cost of tariffs on to consumers. Specifically, items like avocados and tequila from Mexico and maple syrup from Canada may be harder to find, and the major food distributors are already scrambling to figure out what to do. Like I said earlier in this actual conversation, we might find ourselves without certain things. I hope that we don't, or we may just have to pay the price. And as of right now, I feel like I am paying the price. I can recall going to certain stores and not spending what I'm spending now. Like I'm spending almost double what I normally would spend for a weekly amount of groceries. And so it's really intense to think. And I'm someone who, financially is pretty, for American purposes, pretty stable. I mean, I'm not where I want to be, but if you think about just the everyday person, I'm okay. I am definitely okay. But I feel the heat. And for me, it's heartbreaking to know if I'm feeling the heat. I can only imagine people who don't make the money that I make and aren't living, um, the lifestyle that I live, how they are, how are you doing it? It breaks my heart. And I just, like I said, I want us to just, really be aware of that. We are where we are financially we're not financially, but yeah, financially with the food costs now, but will it continue to escalate? That's the issue. Will the food prices continue to escalate, or right? Will we just not see certain things, like they said, the avocados, and other imports that we're so used to receiving from from Mexico and from Canada, tequila, the maple syrup from Canada. Will those things be with things that we just won't see anymore? Or will it just be very, very, scarce in that way? Who knows? Who knows? But what I do know is I want us to be aware. And I want us to be able to question what is going on in this country. Because, like I said, I feel like we have been so accustomed to just kind of like coasting and living and everything is great. We're just living our best lives here in the United States. And right now, well, prior, not so much right now, I think people are they're feeling the heat. But I think now that we are feeling the heat, we need to educate ourselves instead of just, getting so ramped up and angry by way of the media that causes these like emergent like breaking news, and meanwhile we need to know the backstory with that breaking news info. So my hope is to continue to just share things like this that just give us kind of like more of an insight of what's going on. And this is very surface what I'm giving you. So if you want to look more into it, definitely look into what these food imports and exports look like, what the agricultural exports look like, what the fertilizer imports look like. That really like hit me because I was like, I just took for granted that we just had our own fertilizer. That was just something our farmers just create on their own. And to know that we are importing that too, it's like, what? That's intense to know. So, like I said, I encourage us all to just stay as educated as possible. I also encourage you at the same time to take breaks from the news, from media sources that raise your blood pressure, because at the same time, we want to be informed, but we also want to remain as healthy as possible. And that's on a mental level, spiritual level, physical level, all the levels. So if you need to like break from some of this information too, I totally get it, right? But at the same time, we still want to be as informed as possible. So just trying to find that balance. That's what's so important in these times. Y'all, we are living in some really interesting times. But I will say, if anything, these times are waking us up to what's important and what we need to stay aware of to ensure that we are, educated in what is happening and that we're not being blindsided when certain things take place and we have no information about what is happening. So stay as informed as you can, like I said, y'all, and let's continue to push back against this administration and what they're doing, because at the end of the day, we are the ones that are paying into the system, and we actually pay them. It's not the other way around. So we need to put the fire on them. We need to turn it up, and we need to let them know this is not cool. We deserve better. All right, I love y'all. And like I always say, let's just keep on keeping on. And I will see y'all next week. Bye.